Hey guys, Pierre from Into Fly Fishing, and welcome to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to tie the popular Slump buster developed by the world-renowned fly tyer John Barr, who's also more popular for his Copper John. The Slump buster is a very good streamer pattern that can be used on a wide variety of fish species.
This fly tying tutorial is brought to you by Vixen. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check the links in the video description for our full review of their new fly fishing waist pack that has a removable foam sleeve so that you can store this fly and others that you learn to tie safely while you're out on the river.
The tools that we need to tie a Slump buster is a vise, a bobbin holder for the thread, a whip finishing tool, a long and short pair of scissors, a hackle plier, a dubbing loop spinner, a bodkin, and a paper clamp or a magic tool to clamp the zonker strip with. Here in the vise I've got a long shank streamer hook. You could either use a 2 times long or a 3 times long shank. Here this is a Mouche fly fishing 8443 in a size 8. For the weight, you could use a cone, or I'm going to use a 4.6 millimeter Countersunk Tungsten Bead in black nickel. So all that you do is the Countersunk bead has got a small hole on the one side and a bigger hole on the opposite side. So slide the small hole over the hook point and just remove the hook from the vise and slide it all the way to the eye and just clamp the hook back into the vise like so. Just make sure that the shank is level and that the hook point and the barb area is exposed, and just make sure that once again that the hook is properly seated. Push the bead all the way forward. So here I'm going to attach my thread. On my bobbin I've got 136 denier Uni Thread in tan. Any thread in let's say about the 100 to 140 denier would be fine. Attach the thread, leaving about 1/4 to 1/5 of the shank open that we will leave for the collar. Now we leave it open to make sure that you don't creep all the way more forward and forward and forward, and eventually you don't have space to tie in the collar. So all that we do is open the thread, it lies flat, and just lay a nice thread foundation all the way back. It's a very long shank, so you might have to open the thread a couple of times till you get to where the bend of the hook starts. A good reference point would also be if you're fishing with a barbed hook, the barb would also intercept the thread right there. Now I just run my thread forward to where I started the thread base. Now for the body, I'm using a peacock colored sparkle braid or body braid. That's basically just the braided material made from different colors of flash. So what I'm doing is I'm not tying it in by the point. I'm leaving about 1 inch in front, because that forward portion I'll fold over halfway over the shank to create a taper in the body. So I'm just holding it on top of the shank, and with a pinch wrap I'm just securing it and then pulling it to the camera side, to the side of the body, and on the side of the shank I'm just securing it all the way back, making sure that it sits nice on the side of the shank. Now I run all my thread all the way back to the front, and this little tag end right here I just fold to the opposite side and secure it to the side of the shank. Couple of wraps just like that, and I cut it off. And now what I've done is I've created a nice taper in the body. For the ribbing I'm using UTC ultra wire in brass, and this is their brassy size. This is just to secure the zonker strip later on. I place the tip on top of the shank and I just run all the way back like so. Now the zonker strip, I'm going to cut a length that is about 3 times the length of the shank. That would give me enough zonker in front to work with. So that's about 1, it's about 2, about 3. Just cut that length off. Now with the zonker material facing backwards, you measure the leather part of it, and it should be the length of the entire hook. So that right there would be your tie-in point. So wet your fingers, measure again, and right there where you measure the tying in point, just split the material so that you have access to the leather part. Place that part at your tying in point and just secure it with the thread. So fine if you have a couple of thread wraps behind, exposed behind, because we'll cover that up with a braid later on. Pick this forward facing part to the back and just make a couple of wraps in front. Run your thread all the way forward to where you stopped thread base. Now it's time to do the braided body. So I'm going to wrap the braided body in the same direction that I'm wrapping the thread. So the first wrap, as I mentioned, is behind. Let's do 2 wraps behind the tail, the zonker tail. And then what I do is I pick the forward portion to the back and just do a nice tight wrap in front of that. And now we're just creating the body. Tight wraps, touching wraps all the way forward. By the way, if you are finding this video helpful and interesting, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. Then you'll be notified as soon as we release any new videos. Right, now that I've covered the whole body with this body braid, I just secure it with thread, making sure that I don't creep too much forward. Right, now that it's secure, just cut off the excess. Just wet my fingers and I just wet the zonker a little bit to make it more user-friendly to work with. Now I just part the zonker a little bit. I don't want too much of it tied to the back. And now just want to take my thread back a little bit like that, and I secure it in place with my thread like so. Now I cut off the excess. Clean it up a little bit, just like that. Now the wire part is a little bit more tricky. So the first wrap of the copper wire needs to go exactly where the original tying point of the zonker strip was. I found that it's just helps when you wet the zonker, it just makes it a little bit more workable. So the first wrap goes where we secured the zonker the first time. Once you make the wrap, just do a nice tug on it just to secure the zonker. Then we just wrap the zonker of the ribbing throughout the zonker strip, securing it every now and then. I do about 3 or 4 wraps or ribbing segments. It all depends on how large and how long your fly is. Once you get to the end, just cut off the ribbing. You'll notice that it looks a little bit sparse now, but it's just because I wet the fly. Right, now in this section we'll create the collar that will cover up this tying in point and also fill this space. We'll also push the bead forward, securing it and locking it in place. So the first step is to take some of your excess zonker strip, pull the fibers forward so that they are perpendicular with the leather part, clamp the material with my clip. With a long pair of scissors, I then cut the material from the hide, and I'm left with that. You can place that aside for now. So what we do is we create a dubbing loop about 4 inches long. If you want more information on how to do a dubbing loop or how to create a dubbing loop, be sure to check out our video on that. Once I've created the dubbing loop, I just hold it with my hand and I wrap my thread forward to the back of the bead. I then put a dubbing brush spinner in place. Here I've actually just got my whip finishing tool, and I keep the loop open and I put all the zonker material that I cut right in there. Now I just make sure that I level the material in the loop. I pinch the loop and I start spinning my dubbing brush spinner to create a bottle brush effect. Sure to spin it quite a lot, especially that you're using 140 denier. It doesn't break that easy. The better you spin it, the less fibers will come out when you palm the material back. So just take your time and make sure you've got a proper brush before you commence on to the next step. Now that you've got a nice and neat brush, just take a Hackle plier and grab the thread from the brush just behind the brush itself. Now you can remove your brush spinner and you palmer the brush back or forward until you reach the bead. You can wet your fingers every now and then just to make sure that you stroke all the material back, and you can really work the material in behind that bead because it just locks it in place. Right there. Once you reach the end of your brush, just secure that thread with your fly tying thread a couple of times and cut off the excess. Right. Now you can finish the fly in many ways. What I do is I just put a little bit of Sally Hansen's on my thread. So, and then I just do a normal whip finish. That way you don't have to add Sally Hansen's later on and chap some of the fibers or so on. Just trim off the thread. There you have it, a slump buster. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications so that you can be notified if we release any more upcoming fly tying videos. Also share it with your friends and leave any comments or questions at the bottom of the page if you want to. Until we see each other next time, cheers.